So if there's one thing that you take away from this episode today is that you must make a decision to be your greatest advocate for health and also to turn these appointments that can be uncomfortable as comfortable as they can be by making them fun, by bringing your positive energy to the game. Welcome to the Awaken the Matriarch podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Colrett, lifestyle designer, transformational coach, author of the book Aspiring Mama and the Revitalized Guide, as well as being a proud mama. This show is devoted to helping women reclaim their power, to share your gifts, and live in alignment with your true nature. I am so excited about today's episode because I hope it will also reach the men in your life. Okay, this is for any human being with a digestive tract. We are going to be talking about colonoscopies and gut health because I am currently preparing for a very important follow-up colonoscopy happening next week. Literally at the time that this episode will be released, I will be drinking my preparation fluid that I have here, and I'll talk a little bit about, or heading into my appointment. And I have had probably give or take 20 or so colonoscopies over the last 20 years. And so I know a thing or two about the experience, and I want to provide you with some tips and tools so that in the event that you have a colonoscopy at some point in your life, you don't feel so anxious or freaked out about it, and that hopefully this episode will soothe your gut and soothe your soul so that you can actually have fun with it to the best of your ability. It doesn't mean you won't feel nervous at all if that's the type of person you are. But I think some of the things I'm going to share with you today aren't necessarily things your doctor will share with you, because this is something that I think is important to keep in mind. I love my doctors so much. I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them and if it wasn't for a colonoscopy, okay? But most of my doctors have not had as many colonoscopies as I have, okay? And I remember meeting one of them after he had led one or several colonoscopies, not only on me, but on other family members. And he went through some health issues and we had bumped into each other, and he was like, oh, wow, I get it so differently now because I've been the patient lately and it's a completely different vibe. So I'm going to weave in some of the medical information, although caveat, I am not a doctor, and I will reiterate over time that you must follow your doctor's protocol for things to go smoothly. And then I'll also share some of what I was telling my friends, some witchy bitch stuff that will help you make the experience leading up to the colonoscopy positive, but also very importantly, what happens afterwards, because I feel that there is such an opportunity there for people to have a positive experience with these procedures that can be, they are invasive. Having a camera go up your butthole through your digestive system is like a big deal, okay? Because your gut is your second brain. Some will argue it's your first brain. You know, it is so important. And so there's a lot that can happen leading up to one of these appointments and afterwards, and I'm going to set you up for success. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about why I've had so many colonoscopies in case you're new to the show, so that you have a little bit of a sense about who's speaking to you and where my experience is coming from. And then I'm going to walk you through how you can prepare for a colonoscopy in the event that you're going to be having one, what to do the day of your appointment, and what happens during the procedure, and then also give you tips for the 24 to 48 hours after a colonoscopy, and then some to take with you now to support your gut health if you're, someone who's mindful of that, and maybe you're like, I don't want to have a colonoscopy, so how can I take care of my health? I'll also be sharing some tips and tools, and at the end, I'll tell you a little bit about the Revitalized Cleanse program that I am bringing back. I am bringing back one of my first programs that I created over a decade. Well, how old am I? I'm 40, right? About 15 years ago. one of the first programs I led publicly was the Revitalized Cleanse program, which I had created after having colorectal cancer and coming off of surgery and wanting to reset my health. I decided to let people in on what I was going to be doing, and it turned out to be a huge success. And so every year after that, for a period of time, I was leading this cleanse, typically in November or sometimes early in the new year, in the spring. But November seemed to be like my go-to month. I'll share a little bit about that later. And then when I got pregnant, or right before going on mat leave, I was going to run the program, and then COVID started, and then I just put it on the back burner, and I have not led this cleanse program since. So that's been 6 years, more than that, because I didn't even run the last one. So it's been about 8, if not 9 years since I've led the last cleanse program, and I felt it was timely with what's been going on in my life, and it's also something that I'm going to be doing for myself. And I thought, why not help others take charge of their health to end 2025 feeling freaking fabulous, and, enter the holidays like looking sexy as fuck in whatever sexy dress you want to wear, but more importantly, feeling great and taking care of not only your gut health, but your mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. So I'll share just a little bit about that at the end. I've just planted the seed here. But if you want to join us, it is going to be happening in November, and doors will be opening soon. All the links will be shared in the show notes or in coming episodes. So make sure that you're following me on Instagram at Melissa Collarette or at Awaken the Matriarch. Details will be there. And if you're not on my mailing list, then I encourage you to get one of the freebies that are in the show notes, either the Make Magic Mondays guide or the 6 journal prompts to Awaken the Matriarch Within. I'll link those in the show notes so that if you want to be part of my mailing list community who gets the news before anybody else, you won't miss out. All right, so let's dive in, shall we? So I am having an important colonoscopy next week because earlier this year, I had my annual colonoscopy because in my early 20s, was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And at 25, I was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. And after doing some genetic testing, it was revealed that I have a condition called Lynch syndrome, which didn't seem to be that big of a deal at the time. However, back in May, when I had my annual colonoscopy, there was a pesky little bitch of a polyp that turned out to have cancer cells, and that turned my world upside down, because I had thought, well, you know what? I had colorectal cancer at 25. All I needed was a surgery. Everything was fine and good. Took me about a year to regain control of my bowel movement, but hey, that's a conversation for another day. And so it wasn't really something I was thinking was even a possibility, because the year before that, during my annual colonoscopy, it was revealed that my Crohn's was finally in remission after doing an intensive protocol to heal my gut naturally, which I did successfully. However, genetics, the universe, whatever, led to a polyp showing up in my colon earlier this spring. And so I am preparing for what will be this follow-up appointment where I am, I was telling my friend about this in a voice note exchange, that I am taking on being the Lulu. I don't know if you've heard about this trend word. It might not even be trendy anymore. I'm sometimes late to these things, but it's like intentionally delusional about things going well in my life. Like, I'm going to be the Lulu about things going well, because I'm aware that I'm like, okay, if the results aren't as I want them to be, I know what's on my plate. But I decided to spend the summer to prepare for this. I bought myself some time with my doctors, and I followed a kind of traditional health protocol, but also wove in my witch bitch energy, which is what I was also telling my friend about: spending time in the sun, reading, resting, doing things that brought me joy, reawakening my sensuality, drinking lots of water. So there's certain things that, my doctors or even alternative practitioners wouldn't have recommended, but that I took on for myself because I know my body's able to heal. So I'm going into it with that mindset, and I will definitely keep you posted. But over the years, since the time I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease in my early 20s, I've had an annual colonoscopy. One, to monitor the irritable bowel disease, which is located in my small intestine. And then also, after having colorectal cancer, it was like, oh, double whammy. Let's make sure this girl's health is good. And it is, in a way, thanks to Crohn's that I was aware of my digestive health to another level and was able to take it upon myself to go see my gastroenterologist when I did have symptoms that ended up revealing cancer in my colon at 25. So we'll talk a little bit about, when you might need to go see a doctor for your digestive health, but then also moments where you need to be an advocate and just show up. And that's what I ended up doing. But because I was already in the system, I was taken more seriously, and time was on my side, and everything worked out quite nicely. So all that being said, I know what it feels like to go through this procedure. And I know what it feels like when you're doing it for the first time and you're nervous. I know what it feels like when it goes super well, when it doesn't go great. There's been times where I didn't do a good preparation. There's been times where I had a resident doctor who didn't seem to know the bum hole from the vagina hole. And that was uncomfortable. Okay. So I've had a mixed bag of experiences. I would say overall quite positive. And I think one of the big reasons why they have been positive is because of my decision and commitment to making these positive experiences. So if there's one thing that you take away from this episode today, is that you must make a decision to be your greatest advocate for health, and also to turn these appointments that can be uncomfortable as comfortable as they can be by making them fun, by bringing your positive energy to the game. This will change the game for you. If you let your fear, and if you're like a shitty patient, trust me, your experience will not be as good. You want to be on those nurses and doctors' sides because they are working their asses off. Okay, so many puns here that are not intended, but are very fitting to the conversation. So you want to be like a ray of freaking light, because these doctors work so hard, the nurses, the supporting staff, and they should be making, if not more or as much money as the amazing athletes that I love to watch on TV. They should be making millions, because honestly, any person who works in the medical field, to me, is a freaking angel on this planet. And I think it's really important that we as patients respect ourselves and respect them for the work that they do. Does not mean you tolerate bullshit or that you tolerate not being treated properly. But from my experience, these people really care, and they'll care even more when you do as well. So that is a little tidbit here. Do what you will with it. But treat others as you would like to be treated, essentially, is kind of what it boils down to. And chances are you don't want to be treated like an asshole, so don't be one. Okay? Even though you're going to be showing yours to potentially a complete stranger that you're going to get to know pretty quickly if you start seeing them on an annual basis. Okay? All right. So why might you need a colonoscopy? Okay, I'm 40. Chances are you might, if you've been in good health, you haven't had one if you're in my age range, but you might be getting closer to that time in your life where the seeds are being planted, where more of your friends are saying like, oh, it's time for that colonoscopy situation. Typically around 45, 50, there is an invitation to check, because unfortunately, colorectal cancer is on the rise. And fortunately, colonoscopies can catch colon cancer in its early stages and can literally save your life, which it did for me. Because had I not been going through colonoscopies, who knows how long that polyp would have stayed in there before I know. Luckily, I did have symptoms that were atypical for the early stages that my cancer was in. So I do feel there's this whole spiritual messaging in all of this, and I will talk a little bit about that as well. But if you're in that phase in your life where this might be coming your way, like, it's going to be okay. All right. So let's say you have a colonoscopy coming up. The first thing is getting into the mindset about this going well. There's definitely a reason why this is happening. It might be just a routine checkup, but maybe you've been going through some gut health issues that have led your doctors to saying, well, we got to go check this out. Maybe you have IBS, maybe you have IBD, maybe they're looking for that possibility. Maybe there's a history of colorectal cancer in your family. Maybe they're baffled by your symptoms in other organs or other areas of your body, and they're just trying to run all these tests on you. whatever has led you to a colonoscopy, it's probably not because you were having the best time of your life. They're not like, let's just do this for fun. Like, this is going to be awesome. So, first and foremost, I want to send so much love your way because, there's a reason why we're here. And we want to start off by being so kind and loving to ourselves and our body to the best of our ability. This isn't a punishment. This is a tool that will allow you to get information and hopefully set you forward on your path to greater health. Okay. Your gut is fascinating and it is not always easy to understand. Throw in being a woman in there and our hormones, like we just like to make things mysterious for ourselves and the people around us, and especially the medical field. But what you can do to prepare is, one, take care of yourself. Even if it's in a month, 2-3 months from now, do the best that you can to take care of yourself leading up for it. Slow down. Chances are you're going too fast in your life. And that might be why you've got some gut issues. Maybe you're chewing your food too quickly, and that's been happening for 30, 40, 50 years. I'm giving these examples that may or may not pertain to you, and some might resonate. So pay attention if there's something you're like, oh, yeah, that might be true. And there might be things that are completely not true. Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know your exact situation. But some of the things I'm talking to you about are all things that have related to me. I know that I've had to change my relationship to not only what I eat, but when, how much, and why. And when I share with you some healing tips at the end for your gut, I'll go into those a little bit more. So, number one, intend for it to go well. Slow down. Make it a priority to take care of yourself. People have different attitudes when it comes to medical procedures. Some people are just like, whatever, it's on the calendar, it's just going to be another thing I do that week. Fine, if that works for you. If you're more the type that's like, this is a big deal, and I actually do think these are bigger deals than we make them out to be, and I think it's important to not like just overlook what we're going through. I mean, I'm not saying like, listen, you've done way harder things than a colonoscopy, okay? So I'm not encouraging anyone to like play the victim here and wallow. It's like, okay, yes, it's happening. But I also think it's an opportunity for you to like turn on the light in that area of your life and take even better care of yourself so that you can show up to that appointment feeling great. Now, you might be showing up to that appointment because you haven't been feeling great. Okay. So that, you got to do the best with what you got. Maybe you're going to it because like you've had these digestive issues for many, many years. And I think that the tips I'll give at the end might really help because your nutrition can help, your emotional work, and more. Okay. So just use this as a portal where you are given permission to prioritize that aspect of your life. Go easy on your digestive system. This is not the time to be like, I am going to load up on all the pizzas that I can and drink as much alcohol as possible because I'm scared and I'm just going to eat down my emotions. No, I'm not saying you don't get to eat a pizza or have a drink here and there, but I am encouraging you to be mindful of the foods that are typically irritating your gut, and all of our guts, even if yours is made of steel, particularly leading up to an appointment, if you want it to go to the best of your ability and also start moving your gut into the right direction. So typically aim for foods that are easy to digest. I'll enumerate these at the end of the episode. But an easy thing to think about is that if you're eating foods that are mostly packaged or have an ingredient list, you might want to reduce those and start eating whole foods that you've cooked and prepared for yourself. Increase veggies, increase fresh produce, proteins that come from quality sources. Drink lots of water. Reduce sugar, processed foods, fried foods, which is included in the processed foods kind of category. But if we're going into more detail, alcohol, stimulants, drugs, see if you can like chill out on those, okay? And then closer to the appointment, I encourage you to also like kind of slow down your societal engagements so that you have time to really follow your doctor's protocol. Because leading up about 3 to 5 days before your appointment, you must make changes to your diet where you are actually encouraged to remove all like irritants and small nuts and seeds because they might get stuck in your digestive tract. And for some people, making these changes can be really difficult. This is where it's really important to follow the protocol your doctor has written out for you because it's going to be very clearly laid out. So once you've been given an appointment for your colonoscopy, you will be given a protocol to follow in preparation for it. Typically, I think steps you'll have to put into practice about 3 to 5 days before. There'll be some medications that you'll need to stop, and then some foods that you'll need to stop eating as well. So your protocol might be slightly different than mine, depending on what's going on. But typically speaking, here are the food groups that I need to avoid for the 3 days before my colonoscopy. I'm doing it a little bit before because the day before my colonoscopy is only a liquid diet, okay? And I'll talk to you a little bit about it. So starting, 3 days before my liquid diet day, I will be removing any grains, cereals, rice, quinoa, any grains. All of those are out. I don't really eat those anyway, but letting them goes. All legumes, so beans, lentils, chickpeas, also nuts and seeds. Those can get stuck in your gut, and those are things that I actually eliminate for longer periods of time. I eat them very gently now, but not in large doses. And when I followed a protocol to heal my gut completely, all of the above were completely eliminated for 4 months. So just mentioning that in the event that you have some gut health issues, this is something we're going to look at in the Revitalize Cleanse program as well. Fruits with little seeds in them, for example, raspberries, strawberries, kiwi, watermelon, blackberries, tomatoes, grapes, because all those little seeds could, again, stay stuck in your intestinal lining, which just can make it difficult to have like a proper cleansing and a nice scope. You wanna have a nice scope. Chips, popcorn, coconut. So popcorn, also very irritating to your gut, and like on a typical day, it's something you want to avoid leading up to it. And then any corn products as well. So those are the ones that are on my protocol that I just want you to like pay attention to, because these foods might also be irritating you if you're eating them on a regular basis. So if you do have gut health issues and you want to prepare all the more, I would recommend cutting them out for at least 30 days and seeing how that goes. But we can talk more about that later. Now, the day before your colonoscopy, you will not be eating any solid foods. And I had a friend who runs marathons and like leads running programs who was like, that was so hard for me to do. I'm like, girl, like you go for like a half marathon on a random Wednesday. Like that's harder than doing this. You can do this. I'm just telling you, you can do this. Okay. And I know I've done many cleanses in my life just for the fun of it. But for some people, it's one of the first times that they might be on a full liquid diet for 24 hours. So again, if you can slow your calendar down the day before, if you can take the day off, do it. Take this as a spiritual cleansing leading up to this procedure, because that's my advice. I don't necessarily take the day off before a colonoscopy because I'm used to it, but it might be helpful for you if you can, or just, reduce your commitments. Don't have your family over for dinner when you can only eat chicken broth. You know what I mean? So it's just something to keep in mind, particularly if you're someone that tends to say yes to a lot of things and that slowing down and resting is difficult. And I know that was something that was quite difficult for me at the beginning of my gut health journey and has become something I completely embrace. So in the event that you resonate with the lack of rest in your life, then I highly recommend you make it a priority. So the day before, typically, if you have an appointment, at noon, you can usually have breakfast the day before, and then after breakfast, just go clean. So I usually will just have maybe a light breakfast or just my latte, aka potion, and currently, since we're in the fall, my homemade coconut milk pumpkin spice latte. And then I will just have liquids. I make my own bone broth and I just sip my delicious bone broth, either that I've made with beef bones or chicken carcass. So you might want to cook a chicken leading up to your colonoscopy and make your homemade broth. I'll also link a recipe below because that could be really helpful. Or you can go buy some. There's some really great resources out there. Actually, a former client who runs a bone broth company out of Montreal. So you might want to check her out. I'll also link her here. There'll be so many resources for you today. So fun. But you can also have like clear juices, Jello, popsicles. I don't recommend Jello, but if it floats your boat, I went to pick up my prep kit at the pharmacy yesterday, and the pharmacist was like, "Oh, you can drink this like clear Ensure drink now." And I was like, "Heck no. I don't even want to see it because I know that stuff is filled with sugar and something disgusting that is definitely not good for my health. So no, thank you." But thanks. No, thank you, but thank you. You do you. I tend to try to be more au naturel. And listen, I like my toxic stuff here and there, but on a very limited basis. You can drink black coffee, you can drink tea, herbal teas. You can have soda pops. I don't even know why these are on the protocols. To be honest, I think it's ridiculous that these are even recommended on a health protocol, but that is what is on my health protocol for the leading up to colonoscopy. If you have any gut related issues, stop drinking soda pops. Maybe have 1 or 2 a year, but I would cut that out completely, especially any diet variations with aspartame or any other like sugar alcohols that are messing not only with your gut, but with your brain. That is a side note. Avoid any dairy or alcohol leading up on the day before your colonoscopy as well. Okay. Next up is you're going to start cleansing your bowel. And if you've never done this before, it might surprise you how much you have stored in there. If you have, you might be like, all right, let the waterfall from my butthole pour out. Okay. I hope I'm making you laugh because you have to have some fun with this, okay? So the day before your colonoscopy or before you do your prep, you might want to clean your toilet bowl because you're probably going to be on it a little bit, and then you're probably going to want to clean it afterwards too. You will go to the pharmacy and pick up whatever bowel cleansing prep kit your doctor has recommended. You typically don't need a prescription. You just let them know you have an appointment. They might ask you for the appointment document, but then you pick it up. And these things have gotten much better over the years. They're still not delicious, but they're really, really not that bad. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make me want to puke. I mean, I've eaten and drank worse things. And so you have, you usually take, there's my protocol, and this seems to be pretty standard here, but depending on where you are and what might be trendy at the time that you listen to this, because there are different options, I will take these little laxative pills at, I believe, 3 p.m. I'll tell you on your protocol, whatever time it is. And then in the evening, I will drink my first liter of the bowel cleansing liquid. So it's a powder that I mix with water. And then over, I believe it's an hour, every 10 minutes, I have to drink a cup. No problem. Get it down. If you've been to university and, ever been to a frosh party, I'm sure you've downed a beer faster and that you can channel that energy as you down this bowel cleansing kit. And then it'll take a bit of time to activate, but once it activates, trust me, you're going to want to be close to your bathroom because things are going to happen and they're going to come out pretty quickly and with power. Okay. So the night before your colonoscopy is not the time to go out somewhere. I mean, depending like where you are, it might not happen right after you drink in the first liter, but it can happen pretty quickly. So I wouldn't go anywhere the night before. You're going to need to stay close to your bathroom, okay? And wear cozy clothes and maybe take a bath or 2. Buy the nice toilet paper. Do whatever you got to do. Take care of your butt. So that's going to happen. Drink lots of water throughout if this are, that's also one thing in preparation for your colonoscopy or just for gut health in general, is to drink lots of H2O. I'm gonna have some right now. I recommend room temperature and high quality, or like a warm tea. I don't typically recommend ice in your water or cold water unless it's a hot summer day. But if you're always drinking ice water, maybe just go easy on it. Try room temperature for a bit and see, because it's just like gentler. And we want to make gentleness part of our lifestyle. Okay, particularly when it comes to our gut. You will take another liter of the protocol. There's like another envelope that you mix in with water the day of your colonoscopy. Usually it's 4 hours before your appointment. Might be something you want to keep in mind when you are booking an appointment, because if you have an early morning appointment, either you'll do both of the procedures the night before. But if you've got like an 8 a.m., you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to wake up at 4 a.m. to drink my procedure, and you're fine with that, do it. But maybe you wanna do it a little later. I also want you to note that you need to bring someone with you to your appointment. So when you are booking your appointment, you might want to keep that in mind. If, I don't know, maybe your mom's coming with you and she lives an hour away, or your spouse, whoever needs to organize. People will get organized. This is important, but you can negotiate a better time for your appointment. And if you don't do that, you don't have to, but I like to make it work for me. So, and typically it works for them too. And so you'll take that next liter. It usually goes faster that morning. So usually what I do, like I'd like to have like a midday appointment, but this time it's early morning. I do have my daughter with me, so I won't do the same kind of routine as I would if I was solo. But I'll have a beautiful morning with my daughter. As we typically do, I'll channel my inner university girl and down the second round of the procedure like a champ. I might have another cup of bone broth. I'll bring my daughter to school, let my dog run around for a minute, and then I'll come home and my mom will probably come get me because she is my emergency contact. And side note, this made me laugh. I saw this reel on social media the other day talking about like separation, divorce, and the girl was like, one of the things that's a bit tough is like having to change your emergency contact back to your mom. And it made me laugh. But my mom has been to pretty much all of my colonoscopies, and she's the best emergency contact I could ever ask for. It's never even a question whether or not she would make herself available to accompany anybody in our family for any of these appointments. So Mom, I love you. Thank you so much for always making us a priority, and for just being the best. You're the freaking best. So she is going to bring me to the appointment. I typically do my colonoscopies unmedicated, but I will be doing it medicated this time. My doctor did not give me a choice because we have to go look a little deeper than we did the previous time. So the day of your appointment, again, you have to show up with somebody, okay? Because chances are you will be sedated. Especially if it's your first time. If it's your first time, yeah, like take the meds, like do the drugs. They're free, If you've had a few colonoscopies, I recommend eventually going sedation free, because the recovery after is so much smoother. I much prefer doing it sedation free. Not super comfortable during the exam, but it's not that long. And if you have good like breath work control, and you know what to expect, then it's actually gone really well every time. My last colonoscopy was a little bit longer, so it was a bit intense, but they always put something in the event that you might need sedation during the exam. So it's not like you can't like back out of your decision if you choose that too. Of course, your doctor and their team will accompany you in that decision. Some doctors will not allow you to do it sedation free. Mine have, because I have experience. But the day of the appointment, you show up, usually at whatever time they've given you. You'll change into one of those sexy robes. And here's one of my tips for the day of the appointment. Do your hair and makeup. Show up feeling good. Dress to impress yourself. Like, dress comfortably. Like, you can wear a sweatsuit. I don't care. But I feel sometimes we go to medical appointments like looking like shit, we kind of want to fit the mold that is often in a hospital. I really recommend that you show up like a freaking ray of sunshine. It will make you feel better, and it will also make other people feel better. That's just something I like to do for me. I want to feel good walking into that space because it's typically not a space that makes me feel super healthy. Walking to a hospital, you're not like, this is where extraordinary health lives. No, that's just not it. There aren't any dance parties happening in an emergency room. You know what I mean? Or in a colonoscopy procedural room. So bring that for you if it feels good. If you don't, then leave it. You know, like anything I ever share, take what you need, leave the rest. But I will wear my nice undies, a nice bra. I will do my hair and makeup. I will wear something nice. I might bring an extra pair of underwear because an accident can happen. If you've haven't had a colonoscopy before, your cleansing might have gone well, but there might still be some like activation between the time that you're in the procedure room. So just in the event that the accident happens between your home and the drive to the hospital, you might want to bring an extra pair of underwear. Just saying, from experience. I've shat my pants multiple times. I know what I'm talking about. And if you don't have to use them, great. Leave them in your purse. Leave any valuables at home, you know, or wear them, leave them with your emergency contact. So once you sign in, you'll have to fill out a little questionnaire, wait your turn. Unfortunately, sometimes you might have to wait, and that's why these things take time. You know, you might have to, I've had to wait a couple hours before being seen. And that's the reality of our medical system here in Quebec, okay? Once you're taken into the room, or actually before that, you will speak to a nurse. They'll talk to you about what's about to happen. They will insert a catheter so that they can, how do you say that? I don't know how to say it in English, but you will have a needle, like an injection point on one of your arms. Sorry, I don't have my medical terms here, but they will put something in your arm so that they can put the sedation once you're in the room, and then you'll get changed and everything. Once you're in the room, you'll be taken there usually by the nurse or, you know, the assistant to the gastroenterologist or whoever's doing your procedure. Sometimes generalists do them or surgeons do them as well. If you're in a smaller, big hospital, it depends. And then here we go. The party starts, okay? It can be a little chilly in those rooms, so they might give you a little blanket, and then the doctor will lubricate your bumhole and then insert what seems like a scary long tube into your anus. Once you're sedated, you won't feel this. You might feel the entry point because unless you're used to anal, you might not be used to having something going up your butthole. That's totally okay. You might rethink pleasure in that area after that. That's okay too. But then the camera goes up there. I like to see what's going on the screen. So the gastroenterologists, as they're doing the procedures, are usually looking at the camera image on a TV screen that you can sometimes ask for them to angle it towards you if you want. When I'm sedated, I'm usually almost out, so I don't necessarily pay attention or can't. But when I'm not, I'm like, oh, what's happening over there? I want to know. Like, it's pretty cool to see your gut. And this is another side tip to prepare for a colonoscopy is to look up healthy gut images on Google and choose one and repeat to yourself, my gut is healthy, happy, and pink while thinking of that image. And if that image doesn't feel good, you can also choose a beautiful pink rose because a beautiful pink rose looks very similar to a healthy, happy, and pink gut. That is something I like to visualize, and it just makes it fun when you actually see that reflected back to you on the screen. It might not look as beautiful as a rose, but the energy is there. The procedure itself is usually not that long, depending on how it's going. People's pain tolerance is quite different, even under sedation. So your doctor might go way slower because your gut lining has all these twists and turns, and people have just different variations. One thing actually, this is kind of a side note, but if you do track your cycle, I would recommend to book your colonoscopy when you're not menstruating. That's just a personal preference of mine. I have found it's easier when I'm not in my bleed, to just because I can just relax differently, and your system is already kind of fragile at that time. It hasn't happened that often, but it's just something to keep in mind if you are someone who keeps track of her cycle. And if they do offer you a date that doesn't coincide with your bleed, I'd go for that one over like day one of your menstruation. Okay. So during the procedure, if they do find polyps or, let's say ulcerations, if you have IBD, they will take images, maybe some biopsies. When you're sedated, you typically don't feel them. You might feel a little pinching. Some biopsies can feel a little more challenging, especially if they're trying to remove a polyp. So not all polyps are cancerous. A lot of them are benign, but they want to get rid of them so that they don't turn into something later on, which is one of the reasons why screening happens around 45, 50, because a lot of people develop polyps, but a lot of them don't necessarily become cancerous, but removing them is one great way to prevent colorectal cancer from, coming to light. So once that's done, these biopsies, these are like little things, they are sent off. Typically your doctor won't give you any results in the moment unless everything's fine. They'll be able to tell you everything looks good, but they might still take some biopsies even if your digestive tract looks healthy, because sometimes there's things that can't be seen exactly perfectly. So with that, camera's removed, you are then wiped off and taken to a recovery area, which is usually the area you will have been in before going into the procedure room. And if you've been sedated, you'll have to stay there. Usually, I think it's 30 minutes or so. You have to pass some gas, but it's usually with the sedation, they need you to feel good enough to leave, and it takes a bit of time for that to wear off. So you'll probably take a little nap, and you'll hear some people farting around you because that's what's going on in that area. Some people making little noises. And then the nurse or the doctor will let you know when it's time for you to go, and they might recommend a follow-up appointment to already be booked, or leave you with a sheet that gives you the recommendations for what to do in the 24 to 48 hours. There's usually no complications, but there could be, bleeding or whatnot. So they will make you aware of that, just to look out for that in the days that follow, so that you can follow up with them if ever there is some abnormalities post-procedure. Now, one of the main things after colonoscopy is that, and the sedation primarily, is that you're not allowed to drive for 24 hours. And I think this is really important to emphasize, because I know there was times where I didn't necessarily take that seriously until I realized oh my gosh, if something happens, you are not covered. And one, why would you want to let something happen? But your senses are not to their best of their ability. So just keep that in mind. If, say, you have an appointment at 12 p.m. and you're like, I'm just going to work at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Well, you're not allowed to drive for 24 hours. And I actually recommend, if it is your first appointment, to take the day off, to give your body some space to rest after your colonoscopy. I get it. You might not want to, but if you've never had a procedure like this done, I really think it's important for you to slow things down, and to also be really mindful of reintegrating foods into your diet after the procedure. You might be super hungry after, but try not to completely stuff yourself. Again, let gentle lead the way. Start with something easy to digest. Maybe some broth, maybe a soup, a smoothie, and then kind of lean back in. I actually like to follow the protocol that they've recommended. For example, no grains, no legumes, no nuts, no seeds, and any fruits with little seeds for the good 24 to 48 hours after, so that I'm just easing back into my diet and giving my foods something that would feel good. And this is also a cleansing in a way. So it's an opportunity for you to press the reset button. But your digestive system has also been through something that can shock it a little bit, so you want to be mindful of the emotions that might arise leading up to and after the procedure, specifically after. I think this is important for any procedure where something's going inside of you that typically wouldn't. And especially when it comes to your gut, this area is so sensitive energetically and emotionally. So you might have been carrying a lot of emotions, which might be related to the symptoms your doctor might be searching answers to. And so those emotions might be coming up. Let them wash out the same way your poop did when you did the preparation to the colonoscopy. I think this is something that is not spoken about that really should be, because something can arise. Another thing, because of the sedation, and this your doctor will also note, is not to make any major decisions 24 to 48 hours after the procedure, because you're still, actually it's up to 72, no, okay, no, it's 48 hours. Check your document that your doctor gives you, but don't decide the next day to leave your husband. Okay, like put that off. Hopefully work on it, unless it's time. But don't make a major life decision the next day. Even like little decisions. It might not be the best day to choose the color of the bathroom because you might regret it. Okay, just don't make any decisions apart from what you want to watch on Netflix or what book you want to read or what music you want to listen to. Take it easy on yourself, okay, for the days leading up to it and the days after. I recommend that you rest as much as possible after the procedure. The day of, you'll probably just want to rest after the sedation will still be pretty active in your body. So if you're typically the one that's in charge of childcare and like cooking at home or whatever, delegate. Have someone else take care of this. Order in. Ask your kids to help you out. Ask your spouse or friends or family so that you have no charge on you. You've had enough that day. You shouldn't be doing anything unless you really want to, but sometimes that's a habit instead of you actually listening to your body's needs to rest. Make sure you're napping, resting, particularly in the days afterwards as well. And then if you want to start restoring your gut, one of the things you could actually do in preparation to your colonoscopy, but then also after, is take a good probiotic. And if you don't take probiotics, typically, I would recommend that you do around for at least 4 weeks to restore your gut flora after your colonoscopy, or to eat foods that will help your digestive health. You might want to eat some prebiotic foods like sauerkraut, for example, some fermented foods, just that help nurture the gut lining. Okay, so I have a probiotic that I take on a regular basis, and also one that I've ordered specifically that's a little more intensive for after my colonoscopy. And there you have it. Then you've completed your colonoscopy. You might want to treat yourself with a little pat on the back or a spa day or a massage. All things are welcome. And then you'll have a follow-up appointment to let you know what the results were, and hopefully they are freaking fabulous. I really wish that for you. Now, a few tips that I have for you if you want to keep your gut healthy, happy, and pink leading up to a colonoscopy, post-colonoscopy, or just for your life in general. I'm not going to blow your mind here. These are things you've probably heard, but need to be repeated over again, because sometimes we take our health for granted. I know I have. And we're like, oh, that's fine. Or sometimes we've just lost track of how much we veered off of what actually works for our body, or we haven't done a little reset in a while and our body might need it. So let's talk about the things that I would recommend you either eliminate or reduce in order to support not only your gut health, but your overall health. Processed foods, I've mentioned it already. Things that are in a package, whether it's chips, candy bars, or even packaged meals. If you can reduce that, there's a different level to the processed foods we're talking about here. There's some stuff that is just totally not food, that is wrapped in a way that attracts your attention. And let's say Doritos, I don't know, whatever flavor it is, that's not food. That's just not. But then there's other things that, let's say a frozen pizza, you're like, well, it looks like artisanal, but it's not the freshest ingredients and probably not the best. versus if you were to make it at home from scratch. I know that requires a lifestyle change for a lot of people to make their own food, but I truly believe that is going to change your life and also help restore our lives if we created space for cooking food to nurture our mind, bodies, and spirit instead of doing as if eating in the car is a normal thing, because it's not. Maybe once in a while, but we shouldn't be rushing and hurrying through our lives. So cutting out or reducing or eliminating processed foods for a period of time will really help. Nuts and seeds, if you've got digestive health issues, these can be really irritating. I had a really hard time eliminating nuts and seeds because I love nuts and seeds, okay? But I know it had a huge impact when I eliminated nuts and seeds from my diet for as long as I did. I had done it for short periods of time in the past, but never for as long as I did in 2024 when I went for about 4 months, if not longer, without touching any nuts and seeds or nut butters or anything. Then I slowly reintegrated. And one of the ways that I started reintegrating was really being mindful of quantities and quality. So I was the type that could eat like a whole bag of cashew nuts, okay? Not just like a little tiny handful. And knowing that about myself, I also knew that I had to be really careful in my reintegration, because people might say I'm disciplined. I'm like, no, I just don't buy the stuff that I know I won't be disciplined around. Like I don't have stored alcohol in my house because typically I would drink it. But if I want a bottle of wine, I will go buy one and enjoy it either solo or with friends or whatever. But that being said, be mindful of quantity and then quality. If you're not wanting to eliminate nuts and seeds for a period of time, minimum 30 days, I would say, then reduce the quantity and then also increase the quality and go for raw, sprouted variations and see if that makes a difference. And then just make sure that if you're eating seeds, let's say for like chia seeds, that you're eating a serving size, not like 4 servings, because it's easy to just load up on that. And then you're like, why do I have so much gas? It might be why. I just talked about a nice bottle of wine, but you want to reduce or eliminate alcohol or other stimulants like caffeine, because they do have an impact on our digestive health. Now, for some people that might not be sustainable forever. You might want to be like, hey, it's quite on trend to be alcohol free. And I totally like celebrate that. I can go for long periods without alcohol, but I also do enjoy a drink here and there. And so I usually start with eliminating for a period of time and then shifting to something that feels more sustainable and being mindful about the quantities. I don't drink every day. I'm going for drinks tonight. I'll have 1 for sure, 2, max 3, max 3 for sure. And I'm just mindful and choose my battles, but that's also because I've consciously looked at like, well, what do I actually enjoy? And I own the things that do bring me joy, and then I'm mindful of the things that don't, and then reduce those. Like I don't really drink red wine anymore because I'm like, I actually don't really love red wine. I might have a little sip here and there, but it's not something that I actually enjoy. And I find you notice that more when you cut things out for a period of time. When you reintegrate them, you realize like, do I actually love this? Or was I just eating or drinking this out of habit? And often that's the case. But these are kind of classic irritants to our gut health. But that's also, alcohol is irritating to our liver, and our gut health starts there. You want a healthy liver for a healthy gut. Eliminating dairy. Dairy is it's a high inflammatory food. A lot of people have trouble digesting dairy products. We are the only animal that drinks dairy past like the baby stages. Okay. Now, eliminating dairy for a lot of people is super difficult. I get it. If you're willing for a period of time, 30 days, you might just see what difference it might have, because you can do some, food tests to detect allergens. Yes. But I have found that when you eliminate and then reintroduce mindfully, you get a better gauge on how your body actually reacts. Okay. I've eliminated dairy, not because I had trouble digesting it. It's more of having breastfed for so long. I was like, I don't know, it changed my perspective on dairy when I was breastfeeding and watching documentaries on the dairy industry, but I eat meat. So, choose your battles. But if you want to keep dairy in your life, again, go for high quality, be mindful of the quantity. Don't have dairy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Maybe have some dairy for breakfast, but not dinner. Try to vary it a little bit. And if you can go for like goat or sheep's milk, that's a little easier to digest and usually just better quality as well. So those would be some of the key elements that I would recommend reducing or eliminating. And I'll just reiterate for flow. So sugar, processed foods, nuts and seeds, alcohol, caffeine, dairy. Oh, and I forgot one of the big ones, grains, legumes, grains including wheat, dairy, then quinoa, rice. Eliminating or reducing those significantly will have an impact on your gut health for sure. Doesn't mean you will forever, but if you can for a period of time, that will make a difference. If you just want to reduce and aim at increasing the quality and being mindful of the quantities, if you're going for gluten or wheat products, maybe you go for sourdough bread at your local bakery instead of sliced bread at your grocery store, and just notice what difference that might make. Maybe instead of having rice every night of the week, you just have it once a week and switch out for a different kind of grain and see how your body reacts. Again, you don't necessarily want to be having grains or wheat products for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Variety will make a difference. But if you're curious about your gut health and what's happening, what's irritating it, if you are experiencing issues, highly recommend eliminating that for a period of 30 days or more and seeing how your body reacts when you introduce these products into your life. I had found with grains, particularly with wheat, there was often a relationship between wheat, nuts and seeds, and sugar. They were often kind of together because, hey, like baked goods are often gluten full and sugar full as well. So I noticed that in eliminating wheat products, I often reduced a high amount of the sugars that I was bringing into my diet. And I know that had a big impact, not only on my gut health, but also on my skin and my energy levels. But I also do once in a while let myself enjoy like a hamburger with my family members, or, something that my mom baked, or I'll try something that I baked for my daughter. I have gone with periods where I'm completely grain free, but I'm more in the like here and there I choose my battles because I've done a lot of the self-awareness work about what works for me. And also having cut things out for a period of time, I know how to kind of gauge what feels good or not for my body. So you do you. One thing I would encourage you to add more of is water. Most of us are not drinking enough water and we're dehydrated. And if you're having trouble with your gut health, really take a look at your hydration. Are you drinking enough water? Like just plain beautiful water. Herbal teas can also be included. As an adult, I mean, you can get specific with your height, weight, and age and gender. But let's say anywhere between 2 to 2.5 liters of water per day. Usually maybe a little bit more if you're a man or a different age and whatnot. There's like online calculators where you can figure out how much water might I need, but highly recommend to look at your water intake. If you're not drinking at least 2 liters of water, chances are you're not drinking enough, okay? And that in and of itself would make a huge impact. If you're also drinking more than 1 cup of coffee or having alcohol on a regular basis, you also want to be mindful about your water intake to compensate, because coffee, for example, is a diuretic, which means it eliminates liquids from your body. And so does alcohol. So in drinking more water, you'll just help your whole system function. Your joints will feel better. Your skin will glow better. Like water is so miraculous on so many levels, inside and out. So if there's one thing you can add more of, chances are water is one of those things. And you can start by having water first thing in the morning. Don't go straight to your coffee machine. Have some water. You don't have to down a liter in one go, but have a jug as I have next to me right now, or a cup. Put it in a beautiful champagne or wine glass if you want to make it fun. Just make sure that you're getting good quality water into your system, and you will most likely find a difference right there. Add more veggies. One of my favorite takeaways from the famous Atomic Habits book was the idea of putting veggies on your plate first. I was like, wow, this is so simple. But I kind of grew up where it's like everything's designed around the protein. You have your beef or your chicken, and then the veggies are just like the sides. Now it's like the other way around. The veggies are the center, and then let's put the protein as the sides. Doing this will really make an impact. I know I had to be mindful of my veggies. I was not eating enough greens, even though I eat well, but I had to like make sure and pay attention to the quantity and the quality of what I was putting on my plate. And that is one thing you can also make as a shift that will make a big difference. Now, if you don't want to change what you eat, you can also make improvements just simply by how and when you eat. Okay, so if you're like, I don't want to change my diet, okay, I am sticking to this, then I just invite you to slow down and eat mindfully. So maybe you're often rushing when you're eating, or you're eating at the edge of your seat. Set the table, chew your food, double the amount of times that you do right now. Pray before you eat. Take a few deep breaths before each bite, or put your utensils down between each bite. If you're a huge snacker, maybe really organize your meals so that you're having the amount of meals that feels good. I like 2 meals a day. I'm not like a 3 meal a day girl. I might on occasion, but I tend to do intermittent fasting without even trying. It's just become more natural for me to do that. I like to have dinner relatively early, and then in the morning I drink water, and then I usually have my coffee, which is my little magic potion, or a cup of bone broth, or a tea, or maybe I just continue with my water or a smoothie. But I'll have something liquid in the morning. Water is always there, but then what follows will depend. And then I usually have my first meal between 10 and 12. And then I'm usually like ready for dinner at 4 or 5. If it was up to me only, I'd probably just eat at like 10 and 4. Those are like 2 of my favorite times. And then maybe a little light something in the evening. That's what works for me when I listen to my intuition. And part of listening to your intuition is connecting to your gut. And part of connecting to your gut is healing it and taking care of it. And then you will see a radical improvement in your ability to trust yourself and listen to the intuitive guidance that comes your way for every aspect of your life. So again, if you don't want to make some radical changes to your diet, make some changes to the way you eat your food, the way you prepare it, the way you share it, the way you chew it, the way you buy it. Bring love into everything that goes into what you put into your body. And also in your environment. Is your dining area, is your kitchen area an environment that feels nourishing to you? Or is it completely disorganized? One thing you could do preparing for a colonoscopy is to also clean your pantry, clean your fridge. These are 2 things you can do that will completely shift the direction of your health goals. And it's a great gift to give yourself and your family periodically, particularly every shift in season, because every season might have a different theme in terms of what's on your plate. And so doing a little cleanup might help you get rid of things you no longer want, and then make room for what you do want. I love reorganizing my fridge to make sure that the fresh produce is visible when I open. And there's things I just don't let into my house because I don't want that in my house. I don't want it to be too easy to go into the cookie jar. I will make delicious cookies, but I typically don't buy store-bought cookies. That's just me. I know sugar has been something I've had to really be mindful about in my life. And when I'm having any emotional challenges, I used to really just go for something sugary, which I think contributed tremendously to my gut issues. I've done a much better job at managing my emotions, but I also had to manage what I was bringing into my household. So I just don't let it in. One of my girlfriends came for dinner the other night. She brought coconut whipped cream. I don't drink dairy. I drink coconut milk, but I was like, thank you so much for bringing this. I'll serve it with the dessert tonight, but you can bring it home. I don't want this in my house. Thank you. And there was no judgment. I'm like, hey, you do you. I just don't want to have that because I'm going to eat it and I don't want to eat it. So be okay to say no. to foods being brought into your house, or when you go to someone's home too. I try not to make too many requests when I go to someone else's home, unless they also ask if there's any intolerances or whatnot, or decisions that I'm making for my diet. And then I just kind of weigh it out that way. I mentioned already of being mindful about quantity and quality, and I really do think that makes a big impact. If you look at some of the food items, let's say that I've listed that I would recommend you reducing or eliminating. If you're not willing to eliminate some, look at the quantities that you're eating. Let's say dairy is something that you're really into and you really love your yogurt. Are you having more than one serving a day? Are you having half a cup, or are you actually having a cup and a half? And is that actually working for you? Maybe you love oats, but are you having so many, and that might be causing some of the bloating and the gas that you experience in the afternoon? It's just something to pay attention to get curious about if you want to. If you don't, then that's okay. And then lastly, I just want to talk to your emotional well-being, because that is going to have a huge impact, because you are what you eat, but you're also what, why, how, and when you eat it. And you're also like what you're eating in terms of the animals or the fruits, where they've come from. You're eating everything that comes with the produce. And sometimes we also eat our emotions. And so if you're going to eat your emotions, make sure you're eating joy. Make sure you're eating love. Make sure you're eating peace, groundedness, gratefulness, abundance. That will digest much differently than if you're eating stress, if you're eating fear, if you're eating anger, sadness, whatever it is. It doesn't mean those emotions won't be here and you still need to eat on those days. But it's about being mindful about the emotions in your life and what's actually going on. And if you've got some digestive issues that have shown up, maybe after a major life change or as you're in one, just notice the relationship. There's different expressions that kind of come with that. Like, oh, this feels so shitty. Or in French, will be like, j'ai la misère à digérer ça. I have a hard time digesting that. You might say that in English too. It's like an expression. So notice some of these gut-related sayings and how they might be tied to the actual health of your gut. And are there things in your life that you can't stomach? Are there things that you're having a hard time digesting? Are there things that you're having a hard time letting go of? If you have like a lot of diarrhea, maybe you're letting go too easily or not letting go enough. Same thing with constipation. Often they're interrelated energetically and emotionally. Maybe you're holding on too tightly to a certain emotion in your life. I know with Crohn's, having done some, my emotional work, like often fear-based emotions are associated with IBD, Crohn's and colitis. And it's just, I think this emotional component is something that's not within the realm of the traditional medical community because they have enough on their plate. So that's often on you to seek out support for, and hopefully you do that for your health and well-being. So that's my little overview for you to prepare for colonoscopy, leading up to the appointment, day of, afterwards, and hopefully some of these tips are also beneficial for you. If you want more, if you want to reset your health and your gut and your life before the end of the year, I encourage you to consider joining us for the Revitalize Cleanse program that's going to be happening in November. It's going to be a 30-day reset to help you boost your innate vitality and live a life you love. The program is built upon 4 core pillars: nutrition, mindset, movement, and love. And there are different levels of the program. You can be all in, meaning on the nutritional front, you are going to be eliminating the foods that I've mentioned to you for 30 days. And you're going to be moving your body every day. I'm going to be giving you some mindset tips. That's for every level, so that you can cultivate a positive mindset in your life. And then love is woven in throughout the program. This isn't about punishing yourself for not being at the level of health you want to be. It's about taking charge and loving yourself enough to take care of your mind, body, and soul, and having fun with what can be a difficult challenge. Eliminating a lot of these foods isn't easy, but it's totally worth it. The second level might be that you reduce certain foods, or, for example, follow the program for 5 days a week and then let yourself free on the weekends. I will guide you to making the best decision for you, and everything will be explained as the program details roll out. And same thing with movement. If you're doing the like level 2, might be like working out 3 times a week. More details to come. Again, mindset and love are woven throughout. And then you might just want to dip your toe. You might just decide to cut out sugar for 30 days and add more veggies on your plate. So the entry level program is all about eliminating or reducing one nutritional component that I will recommend, and then committing to one action in terms of dietary, and then also in terms of your movement, mindset, and love. So more details to come. I hope you will be joining us. I have loved leading this program in the past. I didn't really feel called to leading it in recent years, but I really feel that this is the time, and November is such an amazing time to reset our health, because it's often this kind of transitionary month here in North America. We're transitioning this fall, winter. It's a great time. Sometimes it's tough emotionally because we're going more inward. It's a little darker, but there's such an opportunity also to prepare home cooked meals, to take care of yourself, and then to step into the holidays feeling freaking fantastic. The results that people have experienced in doing the cleanse have always blown my mind. I mean, for me, it really helped me get my life back. After going through colorectal cancer at 25, I found my innate vitality. I really felt that my light came back to life. And then seeing people's like eczema heal, or arthritis, or other health issues that I never thought would have been positively impacted through this work. I had one of my yoga students in the past do all this blood work leading up to the program, then afterwards, and there was a change in his cholesterol levels and in his cardiovascular health. And this man was in his 70s at the time. So this program is accessible to both men and women of all ages. I'm also going to add some tips and tools for parents so that you can bring your kids into this, because one of the reasons I'm doing this is, yes, for me, but also to be the mom for my daughter and play my part in resetting our nutritional life in our home. Sugar is so rampant in our day and age, and I find it quite difficult to manage that as a parent. And I want to build solid health habits for my daughter, and I find it challenging when there's kids having candy before school. And I'm not judging you if that's what's currently happening in your household, but I am inviting you to look at that quite seriously. I know that we have too much sugar still, even though I'm careful about it. When I look at it in terms of the quantity at the end of the day, it's still too much. And so doing the cleanse at this time is an opportunity for me to do a reset personally, but then also for my house, and to model good habits for my daughter, not from a restrictive energy, but from a loving energy, and like an energy of, I care so much about us and about the health of our world that we're going to take care of ourselves, and we can still have a good time. There's some really yummy things you can make. Okay, you're not going to be depriving yourself whatsoever. This has zero to do with that. But that's just one of my core motivations for leading this program, because I also know that healthy parents is the way to healthy kids, but that as parents, we also need to set better boundaries for ourselves and in our homes to start creating change in the external world. Because I would love for us to live in a world where candy bars and chips aren't at the eye level of our 5-year-olds, so that they think that that's what they should be eating when they go to the grocery store, but rather that they get excited about the beautiful apples and veggies that are beautifully displayed, not only in the grocery store, but also in their homes. Thank you so much for listening today. I would absolutely love to hear from you. If you've taken any value from this episode, send me an email, info@melissacolorad.com or info@awakenthematriarch.com. If you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please share it with them. That is one of the greatest ways to bring traction to this podcast. And I would love for this to reach more people. So please share it with them on social media, by email, DM, however way you share, and like, comment, do all the things. And I truly hope to see you inside of Revitalize. Until then, I wish you a beautiful day, a great colonoscopy, great gut health. May all guts be healthy, happy, and pink this year and beyond. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.